late session heater. Good morning, poker people. Welcome back to the vlog. Welcome back to another episode here at my standard location. We are playing another 2-2 session. We buy into the game for 220 euro this time. My bankroll is growing and I feel more comfortable playing deep stack poker, and in future vlogs you will see me buying even more deep, I guess. With a deeper stack there are more possibilities to maneuver in specific spots, and of course I can get more value with my made hands. And yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's go into the first hand. Before my camera setup was even placed, I played the very first hand at the table and I lost about 80 euro with a full house 6s full of 7s versus a full house 7s full of 6s on a 7-7-6-6 board. Unfortunately, I had to rebuy for 100 euro after my first hand, so we are into the game for 320 euro now, and now into the first hand with video footage. Here we are in the cutoff with ace-jack of diamonds, and we see a limp from under the gun and it folds to the hijack before me, who limps as well. I decide to raise to 12 and it folds to the small blind, who decides to 3-bet. He 3-bets to 32. He's a new player at the table and I don't have many informations about him, but he seems pretty solid so far, so he could have a little wider range when I raise from the cutoff, but let's see. It folds to the hijack, who decides to limp call the 3-bet, and that gives me a very good price to call in position here, and that's what I do. And we see a flop 3 ways of ace-7-6 with 2 clubs. The small blind bets right away. He bets 60, just leaving himself with 55 euros behind. And the hijack folds immediately, and here I have a decision if I want to go with my hand with my top pair and a decent kicker, or if I want to fold. There is no way I'm calling and potentially folding on any sort of turn, and because of the fact the board is kinda wet and he could bet here with some draws or maybe just represent the ace, I decide to raise him all in. I raise to 115, and after some consideration he decides on a call, so we see a run out, no more action. The turn brings the queen of diamonds and the river brings the 10. I show my ace jack and we are good. He mugs his hand, so we will never know what he 3-betted with from the small blind, but never mind, we scoop in the pot. Let's go. In the very next hand, unfortunately I stopped recording in between. I pick up pocket aces in the hijack. The under the gun player before us raises to 8, and of course I 3-bet here. I 3-bet to 24. It folds to the button, who jams, but only for 76. It's getting even better because the under the gun player now decides to cold call this jam. Okay guys. My first intention was to slow play this and just call, because we have position on the under the gun player and we could easily raise or bet almost any sort of flop. And in hindsight I think that is the better play long term, but real time in this situation I just saw 76 euro, that money in the middle. He has about 300 effective and I cover him, so there wouldn't be a good raise size other than all in. So after some consideration, I may overplay my hand, but I shove all in here and the under the gun player really goes into the tank. He tanks for like 2 minutes or something, but ultimately decides to fold his hand face up and he folds ace king. So as said, I think I fast played this hand and I could get more value if I slow play here. But anyway, we go to a run out, no more action, heads up versus the button player, and we see a flop of queen 10-5. The turn is a 7 and the river is a jack. Whew. At least we got ace king out of the way, which we would have lost too. But unfortunately the button shows us pocket queens and we also lose to him. As played, luckily for us, we pushed out the under the gun player, otherwise we could have lost 300 more euro. Anyway, feels bad, on to the next one. In the next one I'm in the hijack again and I look down at 6-5 of diamonds. It folds to me and I decide to raise to 7 and only 3 players behind me call. So we go 4 ways to a flop of queen 8-7 with 2 diamonds. Very nice flop for our hand, not so much for our range, but after the small blind checks to me I decide to bet 22. The cutoff and the button behind me call. So we go 3 ways to a turn now and it brings in a beautiful 3 of diamonds. So we get there with our flush and I'm first to act now. I decide to go for value here. I bet 55. The cutoff folds immediately, but the button decides to call. So at this point, I think he may have like 2 pair or a strong queen with another diamond in his hand. So please dealer, give us a blank on the river, and he rolls over the 6 of clubs. Very nice card for us, and because of the blank here, I decide to go for value again. I bet 125 here on the river. As I said, I think I get calls here from 2 pair, maybe a very strong queen. Sometimes maybe I value on myself if he has a flush, but after he goes into the tank here, I really want him to call. I don't think he is that strong. And he thinks for like 2 minutes, I guess, and ultimately decides on a call. So I definitely think I'm good here, but after I roll over my 6-high flush, he turns over 10-9 of diamonds. He has the flush as well, and yeah, we lose this one. He was afraid of the ace high or maybe the king high flush, he told me afterwards, but yeah, it kind of felt like a little slow roll, but he can never fold a flush on a non-paired board here, I think. But anyway, after this hand I had to rebuy for 200 euro more, so I'm into the game for 520 euro total now. On to the next hand. The game is superb this evening, we have a great evening, the atmosphere is good and all players like to mix it up. We see a button straddle to 15 in this hand. I'm in the small blind next to act and I look down at pocket 8s. I decide to raise to 45 and the button is the only caller. So we go heads up to a flop of ace king 10. This board should definitely favor my hand, I guess, so I decide to c-bet for 35. I immediately get raised to 75 and unfortunately I have to fold my hand here and we go on to the next one. But before we do that, I rebuy for another 100 euro and I'm into the game for 620 euro now. Hopefully we can turn the session around. Let's see. On to the next one. So here we are looking at 6-5 of diamonds again in the +2 position and I raise to 7 euro. The player behind me in middle position immediately 3-bets to 20. It folds to the small blind who decides to cold call and that gives me a very good price to call here with my low suited connectors and that's what I do and we see a flop 3 raise. The dealer rolls over 9-5 deuce with 2 spades. So we have middle pair, but not too thrilled about it. The small blind checks and I decide to check as well. The middle possession player bets 40. The small blind gets out of the way and I don't think I can fold here to only 1 bet with my pair, so I decide to call. We see the 7 of spades on the turn and I immediately recognize my opponent don't like this card. I decide to check anyway, even though I gained some equity, and my opponent checks back. Before the river is dealt, I have in mind if the board doesn't pair, I will turn my hand into a bluff here because I think my opponent is very afraid of the flush and the board got very connected on the turn here. But let's see a river first. The dealer rolls over the ace of clubs. Not really an ideal card for us, but I stick to my plan. I think that may looks even stronger if I lead on the ace here, because that card should definitely help my opponent more than it should help me. And I turn my hand into a bluff here. I bet 100. My opponent doesn't think for too long and decides on a fold. Whew! Very nice situation, I got one through. He later told me he had pocket kings, so the ace was a scare card for him as well, and hopefully things go better now. In this one I look down at pocket 4s in middle position and the loosest VIP player from the +2 position right before me raises to 10. I want to get involved in pots with this player, so I decide to call and only 5 players behind us call as well, so we go 7 ways to a flop. Please dealer, give us a 4. He rolls over, jack 10, 4. Rainbow, we hit bottom set in the multi-way pot. Pretty nice feeling, but we have to be careful a little, I guess. The board is a little connected. So after the player before me check, I will definitely don't slow play this hand. I bet 35 and 2 players call. the button, and our friend in the +2 seat. So we only go 3 ways to a turn now, and it brings in a blank in form of the 3 of spades. +2 checks to me again, and I definitely don't slow play on the turn as well, so I bet 75. Unfortunately, after some consideration, both of my opponents fold, and we don't get any more value, but scoop in the nice pot. Okay, and now guys, buckle up, this hand gets crazy. You see my phone already got excited before the hand and flips over the table. But anyway, we are here with King 10 of clubs in the under the gun position, and I raise to 7. The +1 player, the +2 player, the low jack, the hijack and the cutoff all decide to call. The button is next to act, and he is a relative competent player who's definitely capable of seeing all the dead money here and is definitely willing to squeeze here a little lighter in my opinion to get all the dead money. And in fact he decides to squeeze here, but only to 40. It folds to me, and with this information in mind, I think King 10 suited plays very well, even out of position, and we are deep, around 200 big blinds I guess, so I decide to call. To my surprise, all of the players behind me fold. I did not expect that, but we go heads up to a flop of queen 6-3 with 1 club. So we brick completely, and of course I check to my opponent, and again to my surprise he checks back. We see the 4 of clubs on the turn. So we improve to a flush draw, we have still 1 overcard, and since my opponent didn't c-bet the flop, I think he could be kinda weak or very strong. I mean, if he has a hand like ace jack, ace 10, ace 5 suited or something like that, he has a hard time calling here, and we still can improve to a flush on the river. So I decide to bet 75. It doesn't take too long before my opponent raises me. He raises to 175. I will pause here for a second like I did in the game. I really try to channel my inner math professor here, and I go into the tank. Even though this raise screams strength to me, I get a very good price. This raise is really too small in my opinion, and I only have to call 100 more for a pot that is already around 360 to 380 euro I guess. And with the implied odds we have around 200 euro behind after I would call this bet, after I replay this hand. I think that might be slightly leans toward a fold here, but in this situation I decide to call, ready to jam if I hit my club on the river. And yeah, let's see a river. The dealer rolls over the deuce of clubs. We improve to the second nuts here. Feels pretty good. Of course my opponent could have a hand like ace jack suited or maybe ace 5 of clubs, but that is pretty unlikely. So I decide to jam the rest of my stack for 200, and my opponent is pissed. He is really mad but doesn't think for too long, and he decides to call, and I show my flush. And of course we are good. My opponent shows pocket queen, so he was absolutely dominating us. We had around 5 to 10% at max on the flop, but we made runner flush on him and we scooped this massive pot. Feels good. We are back in the positive for the first time in this session, and yeah, let's hope we can continue like this on to the next one. After this pot I continue to run well. I scoop in some small pots and I'm at a stack of around 960 euro. Before we go into this hand, here we see a straddle to 15 from our VIP friend from under the gun, and I'm next to act here with king jack offsuit. I decide to raise to 35 and it folds to him, and he decides to call. We see a very nice flop of jack 8-3 rainbow, and after he checks to me I bet 30. Again, like in the previous hand I played versus him, he raises me to 75. But this time I have top pair, a very decent kicker, so I decide to call. We see a blank on the turn in form of an offsuit 5. He checks to me, and here I decide to check back for pot control and maybe induce a bluff because he senses weakness, and we see a river. The river brings a 10. Not my favorite card, but when the under the gun player bets 75, I think versus this type of opponent, there's no way I can fold top pair with my decent and second best kicker. So after a small time of consideration, I decide to call, and we get very good news because my opponent shows queen jack offsuit. We outkicked him here with the king and we scoop in a very nice pot. It's getting kinda late after this hand and we played some more small pots which went back and forth, and there were not so many interesting spots, so we hop right into the session update.
What a session, guys. What a heater in the last hour of play. One river card can change your whole session, and it changed my whole session for sure. If I didn't hit that river card, I'm down like 400 and now I'm up 500 or something. Exactly, I was into the game for 620 and I'm out of the game for over 1.1k. You see it right here. Amazing. If you like this, if you like my videos, my content, please leave a like, subscribe and comment down below. Thank you. Goodbye, guys.